My name became another word for evil. Call a man deceitful, cruel, or hungry for power, and sooner or later, someone will call him Machiavellian. You imagine I taught rulers how to become monsters. That is flattering. Monsters rarely require instruction. I did not invent ruthless men. I watched them rule. I watched honest men lose to them. Then I wrote down what everyone preferred to deny. But that is not my entire confession. The rest ends with you. When I wrote for princes, I was not only searching for truth, I was searching for a door back into the life I had lost. Before I became an insult, I was useful. For 14 years I served the Republic of Florence. I wrote dispatches, negotiated with commanders, studied foreign courts, and traveled wherever danger was gathering. I was not powerful, but powerful men waited for my letters. Florence sent me because my judgment had value. That was enough to make a man believe he belonged inside history. Italy was not one nation. It was a table surrounded by hungry men. Florence, Venice, Milan, Naples, Rome, each watched the others. France invaded. Spain intervened. Popes raised armies. Mercenaries changed masters whenever payment or fortune changed. In such a world, good intentions were not armor. I learned to watch what rulers did after their speeches ended. Which promises survived fear, which alliances survived opportunity, which men acted while everyone else was still debating what honor required. I was not studying evil. I was studying consequences. Then I met Cesare Borgia. History remembers the blood around him, and rightly so. He could deceive, threaten, divide, and destroy with terrifying speed. But what interested me was not cruelty by itself. Cruelty without purpose is merely appetite. Borgia understood timing. He acted before his enemies believed action was possible. He used fear, spectacle, promises, and force as parts of the same weapon. I watched men condemn him in public and imitate him in private. Borgia did not teach me to admire cruelty. He taught me that cruelty, joined to timing and purpose, could defeat men with better intentions. I hated the lesson. I could not deny it. Yet Borgia was not invincible. He built too much upon his father's power and upon fortune. When both failed him, much of what had appeared permanent disappeared. Power is not proven by how fiercely it is seized. It is proven by what remains when fortune turns. I believed I was studying his failure. I did not understand that I was looking at my own. In 1512, the Republic fell and the Medici returned. My office vanished with it. The letters stopped. The doors closed. Men who had once requested my judgment suddenly struggled to remember my name. Then my name appeared in connection with a conspiracy. I denied it. They arrested me anyway. Until then, power had been something I observed. In that cell, power placed a rope around my wrists. They tied my hands behind my back, raised me by the arms, and dropped me again and again. Pain reduces politics to a simple question. What must I say to make this stop? But I had no confession to give them. Eventually, an amnesty opened the prison door. Freedom, they called it. I returned to the countryside with no office, no influence, and no place inside the government I had served. A man can survive torture and still be destroyed by irrelevance. By day, I lived among woodcutters, farmers, card games, cheap wine, and smaller concerns. Once, rulers had waited for my reports. Now, no one waited for anything I wrote. I argued with men about firewood and unpaid wine. Then I returned home, covered in mud. At night, I washed, removed those clothes, and dressed as I once had when entering court. Not because anyone would see me, because I needed to remember the man I had been. Then I entered my study. There the dead received me. Livy, Tacitus, Plutarch. Men who had watched republics rise, armies mutiny, citizens surrender liberty, and rulers mistake obedience for love. I questioned them through their books. Borgia had shown me how power behaved in the present. The ancients showed me that it had always behaved that way. I had spent years watching power. Then power removed my office, broke my body, and erased my name. The prince was my answer, not to suffering, to irrelevance. I could tell you the book was written only to expose power. That would make me noble. I could tell you it was written only to serve power. That would make me monstrous. The truth is less convenient. I wanted to understand power, and I wanted power to need me again. I offered my knowledge to the family that had removed me. I wanted them to see that I understood states, armies, rebellion, reputation, fear, and fortune. I reduced years of service, humiliation, observation, and pain into something powerful men might find useful. I wanted the door to open. It did not open as I had imagined. The door stayed closed. My words escaped without me. People repeat a sentence I never wrote. The ends justify the means. Those exact words are not mine, but they are convenient. They turn a difficult book into permission for anything. My argument was harsher and narrower. A ruler responsible for preserving a state cannot assume that private goodness will always produce public safety. He may be forced to choose between two evils. He may need to deceive the deceitful, break faith with those preparing to betray him, or use force before disorder consumes more lives. But necessity is a dangerous word. Every coward calls his fear necessity. Every tyrant calls his appetite necessity. I knew that because I had watched rulers use the word, and because, in exile, I had begun using it for myself. Was it necessary to write for the men who had broken me, or did I simply want to matter again? I wrote that fear may be more dependable than love when a ruler cannot safely possess both, provided he does not become hated. Ask yourself, which has governed you more often? I knew fear was dependable because I had felt it. Pain did not persuade me that my captors were just. It persuaded me that they possessed the room, the rope, and the time. Fear produces obedience. It does not produce loyalty. A ruler who forgets the difference eventually discovers hatred beneath the silence. I wrote that a ruler must understand the fox and the lion. The lion frightens wolves but does not recognize traps. The fox recognizes traps but cannot frighten wolves. Power fails when it understands only one language. Florence knew how to debate like philosophers. It did not always know how to survive among wolves. And fortune? Borgia believed fortune would continue serving him. He lost the power he had seized. So did I. I lost a desk. The scale differed. The lesson did not. You remember the book I addressed to a prince. You forget the longer work in which I examined republics. I believed liberty could grow from conflict when laws gave citizens a voice. I believed a republic could be stronger than one ruler because it contained many minds, many ambitions, and many ways to answer changing fortune. Was I a republican or an advisor to princes? I had served a republic. I wanted employment from princes. I admired civic liberty. I also knew liberty could be destroyed by citizens too divided, too corrupt, or too weak to defend it. You want a clean answer because clean answers are easy to judge. My life was not clean. Neither was Florence. Neither is power. I waited to be useful again. I wanted a position. History gave me an adjective. I wanted rulers to value my judgment. Instead, generations used my name to describe what they feared in rulers. That was my reward. Immortality without acquittal. So why did they call me evil? Because I separated the ruler's appearance from his actions. Because I wrote that promises, mercy, faith, and morality could become instruments in the hands of power. Because I described politics without first making it respectable. But description is not innocence. I did not create the darkness. I arranged it into sentences. I gave it names.
I made it easier to study. Perhaps I also made it easier to use.
I knew what princes could do with my words. I knew how easily necessity becomes permission. I knew that a frightened ruler could read caution and hear approval. And still I wrote. Not only because truth mattered, because I wanted to matter. I wanted my office returned. I wanted influence. I wanted to stand once more inside the rooms where decisions became laws, armies, prisons, and graves. That is my confession. I exposed the mask worn by power, then offered my service to the men behind it.
Perhaps that made me honest.
Perhaps it made me useful. Perhaps history was right to remain suspicious. But before you condemn me, ask yourself one question.
Do you hate me because I taught rulers to be ruthless?
Or because I showed you that many of them already were?